Phones have brought a communication change that we haven't seen since the printing press. Sharing information and social life on a phone is tremendously important to teens, and it changes some dynamics about family. Today we're going to talk about some of the truths we find when people have phones. Hey, welcome to the First Youth Podcast. I'm Kyle Hand, and I have with me Gabe Vanderstel. Switcheroo there. And today we're talking about phones. We're going to talk about a whole gambit of things in there, but it's going to focus mostly on phones. We're not jumping into computers as much, but I guess screen time.
Screen time, that's part of it.
So yeah, it's a big conversation, like many of the things we do here, but it's an important one, and we're hoping this is just another one of those felt needs. It is with my family. I've got 3 kids under 7. Yeah. And it's something that me and my wife sat and talked about, which I'm sure you guys have. So
definitely one of those topics where parents come to us and they feel lost. So
sure.
If you're watching this, parents, and you're saying, hey, I have no kind of guidelines, or I don't really know where this is going. My kids have cell phones, or they're asking for a cell phone. I don't know what to do. That's okay. There's a lot of tension there. You are the first generation of parents to go through this.
Right.
And guess what? Your kids are the first generation of students to be born in the digital age. So
with such widespread stuff,
absolutely.
Too. It's not just because I was looking the other day. The first text was sent 1992, but that 2007 was the first time text messaging took over phone calls. So that was 2007. So that's not even that long ago. And then social media is only it feels like it's 20 years old. It's probably closer to saying a few years old than it is. So phones have brought in a whole new world. So yeah, parents, you're in the same boat. But today we want to do a little bit more of like truth statements and then kind of talk about them. So we wrote down a couple of them and then what we can do with them and stuff. But we'll rap about a couple of these things. Here's one of the ones that we put down. Teens don't appreciate the vendetta against them and their phones.
Truth.
They just don't like it. I showed a video in Academy, which Sunday School Hour there, that it was a guy talking to millennials, and I said, hey, just take out millennials and imagine it's focused towards you. I didn't have to say anything. People had their hands up right away. I don't like that.
Felt targeted.
Yeah, well, that was their...
Yeah.
And most of their thing was just, I don't like how it's an attitude of people against us. That's how they said they felt it, which I get. I don't like when people point out, I'm technically a millennial saying millennials are lazy, they're not focused. It's a generalization, and they don't like it.
So parents do a disservice when they look at their student, look at their teen, and kind of come in with a little bit of an angle, or saying, hey, your generation does this, or all teenagers do that. That kind of shuts them down. So yeah, and teens definitely don't appreciate that.
Especially because how many times parents say, well, we're not the world, or we're not like that family.
Yeah.
But then you betray yourself because you're like, well, all teens do this, I'm going to treat you that way. And they're like, I thought we were supposed to be different. So if you have any kind of leadership in your family or influence, you got to treat your teen different in most regards like this. So yeah, it's all they know. I would say for adults, if adults had to have a perspective, it would be like going into your work and not having a computer. Or having somebody walk in and criticize you for having a computer. Why are you on that all the time? Because it's my job. Like, this is all we know. If you walked into work with a pad of paper and a pencil and that's all you had, it would be unacceptable.
Right.
You can't do that.
One of the illustrations we've seen is here in our office, we had an older gentleman walk by one day and see our tech director in front of his computer.
Yeah.
And he said, man, don't you get sick of looking at that television all day long? and from his perspective, wow, you are wasting your day in front of a television. From what he saw, reality is that's the world we live in, right? That's how we do work.
And he separated himself from that tech director immediately because it wasn't a TV screen. That was just kind of an ignorant comment, and there was nothing bad behind it, whatever.
Right.
But it was an ignorant comment, so it separates, goes, you're old, you're back. So for parents, you want to relate to your kid. What are you doing looking at that? Like, as long as, the language is important, how you do it's important, what you say is important.
But you'll alienate yourself before you even enter the conversation if you come in with a judgmental attitude.
Immediately, because they're not looking for it. They don't want to listen to it, and they don't want to hear it. So the other side of that too is, and I think it started when we started that video, was before we even began listening to it, a number of them said, this is ridiculous because they're on it more than I am. They would say, one kid in the back said, my grandparents are on it on their iPads the most of the time that I see them.
Grandma's on Facebook.
Yeah, and so they see it too. So they're saying,
absolutely.
So one is, well, it's my world. You can't just say like, why do you have a car? It's the world. But two, it's hypocritical. It's like driving your own car, going, why do you drive a car? It's like, well, I see you on it. They see it. There's evidence there. They're not just making a wild guess. They're
And
modeling.
teens are pros at spotting hypocrisy, right?
Right.
Even if we as adults don't see it that way,
Yeah.
a teenager could look at a situation and say hypocrite, and they won't hear a word you say.
Yeah.
So come into that conversation without a judgmental attitude goes a long way.
Yeah, they're looking for authenticity.
Yeah. What's the next truth we have?
Most people recognize that there is a problem. I would say most people recognize or have a hint that, and if you don't like the word problem, most people have a sniff or a hint that there's something going on that's not positive all the time with phones, social media, technology. And most people admit it. Now, I think that's where it ends for most people, but I feel like right there, most people get it, but not sure what to do about it, maybe.
Yeah.
Or they love their phone so much that they don't want to talk
Let's not
about
talk
it.
about it because
No.
it's convicting. It really
Yeah.
is.
You know, I was watching a guy talk about technology, and he's a branding guy. He builds his company on his phone, which there's a lot of good things about phones. That's one of them. You can build a lot of information. You might be watching this right now on a phone. That's really good.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, I've seen this guy blew up and fought back against everybody who said, well, maybe we need to moderate our screen time. He was yelling at the camera going, that's ridiculous. If anything, I want to be on my phone more. So, I mean, it's the swing the other way. He's advocating for it to go completely bonkers with more phone time. But most people realize there's something else more going on, and there's some science behind it, some sleep studies,
Sure.
and how much blue light you take in and stuff like that. But
Definitely links to anxiety, depression
Yeah.
amongst teenagers.
yeah,
and
mental health's there.
There's mental health issues with the more time they spend on it, the more anxiety they feel to
Sure.
keep up with social peers, things like that. So there's some bad that comes with it, but
Yeah.
also you got to admit there's a whole lot of good that's involved there as well. So
And that's
gotta
that
balance
last
out.
one too. Is that if you come at this with a convicting tone, like gotta put all the cell phones away, they're ridiculous. Let's get we're done with them. First of all, you're ostracizing yourself from
culture,
from everybody in there too. Your kids, one because they love and it's good and stuff like that, but they're not going away. There is not. You could not say in this world there's a trend towards less phones, less screens, less technology. It's taken off at an incredible rate. So it's here to stay. That's kind of the last thing I thought was it's here to stay, and it's here to grow. I can't imagine what it'll be like in 5 years. 5 years ago, 2014. What was it compared? And it's only going faster.
So if it is here to stay, right? If it's here whether we like it or not,
Right.
how can we embrace it in such a way and maybe set up some boundaries to help ourselves moving forward, right?
Well, so what we did these past couple ones, and we'll do it again here, is helping them see a perspective. So from the parent side and from the kid side. And we wrote this down, and it's a little bit easier, scary, but a little bit easier for us to see the parent side now that we're getting there.
Sure.
And what we really found with that is I talked to a bunch of parents. People were excited when they heard we were going to do this talk. Right. And they kept feeding me things. My wife and I sat down and talked about it, and she fed me some ideas, and moms and dads, all sorts of things, leaders. And parents are on their phones, and they see their time on their phone as mostly for work and life. So work, answering emails or writing down thoughts or contacting somebody, responding to an email, and life. We were talking about that recently, how I'm registering my kid for a sport, or I'm looking at our calendar to see when we can do XY activity. Yeah. So I'm not hanging out on my phone. Like
scheduling a play date. I'm doing something for the family.
Right. It's for them. It's not like, well, I'm having a whole bunch of fun. So parents see themselves looking at it as kind of as a work thing, and so they see their time that way. Now, and this is the perspective we had on teens while parents are on their phones. Kids don't see that.
Right.
Kids aren't looking over your shoulder, and if somebody looks over your shoulder while you're on your phone, most of the time you're like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're like pulling off to the side. And so for most parents, they're on their phone doing life, but teens are looking at them, and all they see is you're just on your phone. You're just on your phone. And I'm not discriminating between or disseminating between, well, they're doing work, so I excuse it. They said they were watching toddlers play around parents on their phones, and toddlers constantly look at their parents. They just look. They're just looking to check if you're there, if I'm safe.
Perception, yeah.
Mom, look. They say it. And so when parents are looking at their phones all the time, they see this increased like movement in kids and anxiety, and they're not watching the TV anymore. They're not playing the game anymore because mom or dad isn't paying attention to them. So sometimes they're just acting out for you to watch them play, which is just crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, they don't see it. That when teens and kids are looking at parents on their phone, all they see is you're on your phone. I heard that quote from a mom to a father. Yeah, but the kids just see you on your phone. They don't know why you're on it.
Right.
And granted, some of those times they see us on their phone, we are just having fun. We are just playing a game.
The reality is we have to, as leaders, and if you're a parent, you are a leader in the family. As leaders, we have to think about perception, and that's what we are judged off of, not reality.
Yeah.
And it's unfair, but what does my teen perceive about how I'm using my phone? And sometimes it just starts with asking that question, sitting down with your teen, and say, hey, what do you think about how mom and dad, how we spend our time on devices? What are your perceptions about that?
It's dangerous.
That will blow open the door to a conversation where you can have some legitimate, groundbreaking conversation. I think
dangerous
that could be
stuff.
important. Yeah,
but
dangerous.
Helpful,
yeah.
but helpful.
Perception.
Sure. And now the other side, if you're going to be a leader, and that's how you're saying in a family, is you've also got to see the perception and the reality of your kid. So parents, I think, see their teens' time on their phone as mostly unnecessary. For teens out there that are listening, that's how your parents see your time on your phone. Now, this isn't 100% of the time, but parents look at it and go, why are you on there?
All you do is play games. You're always texting your friends. We're trying to have dinner, and you're scheduling a get-together with your friend, right? That's their perception.
You are isolated from our family, and what you're isolated in doing isn't taking the SAT. You're not working on something that's going to develop your future.
Yeah.
You're doing something that's unnecessary. Not unworthy, I think parents, but unnecessary. But they lack that. I've seen and I've kind of noticed, and I know my own attitude when my kids are on it for a certain number, an hour or whatever, or time, whatever their time limit is, I'm looking at it like, but they don't have to be. They want to be.
It's not a responsibility.
Yeah, and my stuff's my responsibility. Yeah. But if you put yourself in your kids' shoes and try to see it from their eyes, an empathetic leader, you gain so much credibility because the stuff they're doing on their phone isn't unnecessary. It's not unworthy. You read this, right? Kara Powell in what was the book?
Growing With.
Yeah, Growing With. That whole thing there. They have the technology book there, and we'll put all this stuff in the link.
Navigating the digital world.
She says something about a lunchroom, right? It's the phone is.
It's their lunchroom. To a student, that's their lunchroom. Where we grew up in, we looked around the lunchroom, and that's where we made social connections. To a teenager, they bring their lunchroom home with them. And that's where they're making they're experimenting socially, and they're making those connections there.
And it's working too because they don't just have to sit in assigned seats or people they don't want to be around. They get to choose. So there's a lot of power there.
Figuring out who they are.
Yeah, all that stuff. So carrying their lunchroom home is great. They're carrying their social life home. We came home from school and it was different.
Yeah.
That's something for a truth for parents you've got to embrace is they're taking it home with them. There used to be a big connection. If you wanted to bring school life into yours, you had to call on a phone or go out and find them, but it's in your house. So if you can see it and note it, you get a better advantage there. So, but two, it's not unnecessary and it's not worthless, and the stuff they're doing isn't there. They are developing socially. They're developing friends. They might have a lifelong friend that's good for them. That's the good part about a phone that they might not have had if
they might be playing video games with their friends and talking online. So I think what's key is for parents is to look at their use of their technology and help the teenager decipher, hey, am I isolating right now or am I investing? If they're investing in a relationship and friends, that's something that can be encouraging with parameters.
Sure.
But if they're just isolating, if they're just going brainless activity, that's where there's the danger.
And I where they got that danger and that isolation and stuff is huge. And you said another word there, parameters.
Yeah.
That's real important. And again, this is another call out to parents is how did we get here? This is a good question. How did we get to this situation? Not with phones, because Steve Jobs did a great job creating technology, blah, blah, blah. Not that. But in your life and in your world, you're not looking for an answer for the world because you can't solve it. And even if you know it, who are you going to call?
Yeah.
Like, what do you? Hey, I know the solution for all these smartphones. Nobody cares. Nobody knows who you are. But your home, you have a direct influence in. You got to know the question and the answer for your home.
Yeah.
So you got to start with, how did I get here in my house? The answer to every single one is, I know it's big, but it's true.
Here it is.
To every single one is, you modeled it to them.
Yeah.
People would reject that. I'm kind of sitting there thinking about my kids and stuff, and I'd go, But if you're hard on yourself and you sit there and look at it, you taught them how to be on their phone. Some things are inherent. You put your head down and you look at your phone because it sits there. But not like that. How much time, if you're accountable, how you treat people when they're trying to talk to you when you're on your phone. It's just like language. Every kid learns the English language around here because it's our language, but the tone that they speak is different for each family. The style, how they treat people when they talk, how they greet people, whether it's, hey, how you doing? Or what's up, loser? Because I'm insecure and I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. So with a phone, it's the same thing.
More is caught than taught.
More is caught. So
Yeah.
if they catch you going to another room to use the phone, guess what they're going to do when they have their phone or their device? Go to another room to use their phone. So for parents, it's you taught your kid, just like you taught them how to speak, you taught your kid how to use your phone.
This has been convicting to me. Obviously I'm on my cell phone a lot, and I can make the decisions that, hey, that's part of my job. I have to do that. But what my child sees is dad on his phone at home. When I could be doing that work, or I could be doing that when she's in bed. And what my kids see is dad's on the phone. Now, I look at it and say, well, I'm being responsible. I'm communicating about something, or I'm doing my job.
I'm an adult. I'm allowed to.
Their perception is dad's spending more time on a device than with me. So we got to take responsibility there, and just create a culture where we say, you know what? I'm just going to put it down for a second and maybe spend some time with the family.
And what you're creating is that intimacy with your family. I'm choosing you over something else.
Yeah.
And that's part of the phone thing, is for how many times we do that, and we got to consciously choose, because it's so easy to pick up the phone and look at it, is you're developing intimacy with your phone. Okay, so I don't go downstairs and grab the hammer from my toolbox and put it in bed with me and sleep with it. It's just weird. That'd be dumb. It's dirty. Like, it doesn't do anything. But with my phone, there are times I've fallen asleep and I've had it next to me. So I don't sleep with a hammer. I don't sleep with my shoes. But I sleep with my phone, which is odd. If you're a single person,
what other object do you do that with?
You don't do it with anything. And from everything that they've said about the filthiness of our phones, like, wipe them down because you bring them to the bathroom in the car and stuff.
Dirtier than toilet seat, they say.
It's terrible. So you're putting that.
People right now are going to grab a Lysol wipe to wipe their screen down.
They should, but you're bringing it into your bed and then you sleep next to it. So the only person the only thing that sleeps in bed with me is occasionally the dog, before I catch him and kick him out, or my wife sleeps next to me, or my kids will wake up and they jump into bed.
Yeah.
Those are the only people. Nobody else is coming over to my house to jump in. So my phone on my bed, that's a really personal thing. And so I think too, how did we get here? Is we have an intimate connection with our phones. I heard that somebody on staff recently said their kid dropped their phone and goes, "Oh, my best friend," and picked it up. And they go, "That's more true." And he said, "I'm dead serious.
More true than we want to believe."
Come
right?
on, if I'm bored, if I'm lonely, if I'm tired, if I'm hungry, it solves every need, and it's always there with us.
We're never bored anymore. We always have something to bank on.
So that thing is personal and tough to talk about. If somebody were to tell me what I'm doing wrong in my marriage, I'd be defensive.
Yeah.
And so for teens and parents to begin talking about this is really intimate. This is personal space that you're trudging into, so be careful. So for parents and teens, they might just be unwilling to talk about it because of how personal and intimate this thing is.
Yeah.
But we do have some good things, and I think we've got some good stuff to help.
And creating a culture that of conversation where your teens can come up and talk to you about something, and maybe bring something up that is convicting to you, and you actually take that, right?
I feel like that's like
part of it.
That's a helpful tip for all the things we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Dating, have a culture of conversation. Phones, have a culture
be
of
approachable.
conversation. You should
be humble.
If you can't have your kid, if you don't have your kid walking up to you and being able to speak honestly with you, that's where you got to start.
Yeah.
The phones isn't the issue. The dating's not the issue. None of that stuff is. We can't
those are
have
just
a conversation.
Topics.
Yeah, those are just application points of what's happening in your life. So creating a culture, in your family, embracing a little bit. That's part of that culture. A time hop and Facebook throwing out memories. So great. Sean and I sit down and just look at the kids from a few years ago, and we'll talk about things that we see them growing into, and what we'd like to see change, and how cute they were, and how cute they are, stuff like that. You can embrace that as a family. Send in everybody in your family. I texted all my siblings a picture of an old video game we used to play when we were kids. We were all laughing about it for 20 minutes. That's great. You, as a family, if you're the leader, the primary influencer, embrace it. I like that. Create a culture. Bring it in. Make it part of who we are. Don't let it rule you. Be a master over it. I
one of the topics we covered earlier is the difference between isolation versus sharing in experiences. One of the things I picked up from Kara Powell's book is that in her family, she's modeled that when their family's together, say vacation, dinner, they go out to eat, they can only use their devices to share in an experience. Like, hey, this happened at school. Can I share it with the group? Once again, that's just an illustration of one family and what they did. But instead of isolating on the phone, it's, hey, let's use technology to grow our relationships, to hey, I want to post a picture of our family outing or vacation, right? I want to bring my friends into the experience. And those are ways that we can celebrate technology and celebrate social media in a way that's not, condemning.
Hey, and for that right there, because in my head, I grew up camping and stuff with my parents. We didn't have phones, and I think if the idea for my dad was get away from the world. I don't want to bring my friends with us. But
there's a time for that.
Sure, but if it's every time, that's not going to speak to your kids. And two, think about this. You're doing something so good with your kids, something so fun, something so engaging that they want to share it. So if they're not
And they're
sitting there
celebrating the family.
and as long as
that
they're not
moment.
complaining, man, I'm
Yeah.
stuck out here with my family. That's no good. But if they're sharing with it, it's going, I provided, made, led my family to something that was so good that they want to share it. You should take pride in that.
Yeah.
There's times, yeah, hey guys, no, not this time. I've said that a million times about things about our house. This isn't social media. This isn't, now it's just me and my wife,
Yeah.
but this
Yeah.
isn't social media content. This is just us. I don't want anybody else to own this. I want to have a private moment with my family. But they like to share it and bring them with, so it's not isolation. So I agree with you that this last one I think is big. Have expectations. I'd said you are at a direct advantage if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, and you have an elementary aged kid, or if you don't have kids, or if they don't have phones.
If they're
before
just
it starts.
starting to come home and say, hey, my friends have an iPhone.
Perfect, scary, but you're in a really good boat.
Yes.
You can develop guidelines for these kids.
It's not too late.
No. And if you're just handing it to them with no accountability, and again, that's modeled. My phone, I'm accountable to my wife and to a couple other guys. So if I slip up on the phone or if I see something or say something or do something, people will find it. My wife's allowed to pick up my phone and look through it. That's accountability. Some parents don't even have that with their kids. So if you went up to your kid and tried to pick up their phone, it'd be locked and you wouldn't know when. That
And
to
say,
me,
hey, that's my property.
Right.
Get off my phone.
that would drive me bonkers because I'm paying for it. So right off the bat, there's kind of a little bit of, no, I supply this to you. Now, that can come off authoritarian, so you got to be careful. But bringing them in, well, I pay for it. So we do have to have a little bit of accountability here. You know, it used to be accountable when they had minutes and text message allowances.
10 cents a text
The
message.
bill would come in the mail. That'd be some accountability.
Trouble.
You went way over, and I don't need to unlock your phone to find that out. But having those expectations, you should be providing them.
But the
before
key, the key to making that transition easier is starting with them before they have the device.
Yeah.
So setting up some sort of agreement, or I know some churches they call it a covenant.
Yeah.
And they actually have they sign it and everything and say these are the expectations. Here is a device that costs X amount of dollars,
Yeah,
right? It's a
yeah.
lot of money. There's a lot that comes with that. These are the things that, as your parents, we're expecting of you.
Right.
We're going to be checking your accounts. We have access to all your codes.
Right.
And when the teenager knows that going into it, they feel like you're treating them like an adult.
Yeah.
Because there's an agreement there. Hey, I will accept those ground rules or those parameters because I'm getting something.
Right.
That way, when you go in and you need to have a conversation with them, it's, hey, remember we talked about this? So setting those things up,
Yeah.
I think, right at the beginning is really helpful.
And here's why, and this goes into the high school thing too, is because you're not trying to be a cop.
Yeah.
Well, my parents know all my passwords. I can't get away with anything. That's not the point. That's totally not the point. Because if anything, I want to see my kids screw up so that I can help.
Yeah.
I don't
What's
want to
the
hear
end
about
goal
it.
though? So what's the end goal?
Okay, you're trying to give your kid a phone, right? And or they're asking for whatever. You're trying to teach them to be able to use it wisely when they're gone, because eventually they will be. So even if you're the parent that says, I'll never give my kid a phone, wait till they walk out the door. If they've got a job and they can pay for it, they'll buy one.
No discernment has been taught.
Why would you?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what that translates into. I didn't teach my kid how to use it. I restricted him and gave him no education in how to use a phone.
And I reject that as part of our culture.
Yeah, and then your kid
Yeah.
goes out and does it. That's crazy sauce. You do not want that. I want my kid out there expecting things. Now, my kids are young. They're 7, they're 5, they're 3. I don't teach them everything about it right now. That would be inappropriate. But as they get older, as a coach, if I'm transitioning from cop to coach, then what I'm doing is showing them techniques. I'm pulling them over. Okay, we lost the tablet. We lost the phone. Here's why. We're losing it because you guys are fighting about it. You had your time. You're not supposed to be over here, but you were hitting. That was a bad reaction to this
Right.
isn't even yours. So transitioning to coach, I'm trying to teach them you're not having this conversation. You're not having it like this now, so that later they know how to use it. And of course they'll screw up, but that's the point of a coach being there.
So parents need to guard against the mentality of I set up parameters and then let it go.
Yeah.
Because then it's just rules,
Yeah.
right? And you break a rule, you're in trouble. If there's no coaching
Yeah.
going on, they're not going to learn. And,
No,
and that's the ultimate goal.
No, it's I'm reading something about volunteers and stuff, and it's the same thing with kids. you're empowering them with authority, okay, but you're also keeping them accountable. So I'm empowering, but I'm also delegating with accountability. So empower with authority. This is your phone. I'm giving it to you. It's great.
Yeah.
But I'm delegating the use of it to you with accountability. I mean, I'm going to be checking up on this thing. You know, it does cost money. You know, if you just throw this phone around, crack the screen every time, you're not getting another one. You haven't proven that you can, or you're going to have to pay for it. So, yeah, all that to say, a lot of accountability is a good thing for a teenager.
It gives opportunities
less as you get older.
Yeah, it gives opportunities for teenagers to be rewarded.
Yeah.
Hey, you've been using it responsibly. We're now going to allow you to download that app or to use that game or to use that browser because you've demonstrated responsibility and you're trustworthy. So it gives opportunities for a teenager or that student to say, hey, I'm going to work towards a goal here. I'm going to work towards something, which is neat for them.
Now, final thought here. Resources. The description here and below this should have a whole bunch of links of stuff. One is the covenant we're talking about. The other one, and I think it's a discussion guide kind of a thing. And then the other one's actually great software called Circle, where you can navigate. So you don't have to be an IT person to control the internet in your house and what things are restricted and not. If you told me to plug in my router and start entering passwords, you lost me. But Circle's fantastic.
And there's a ton of these out there. Parents have their opinions. Some say, hey, I like this one, I like that one. But it's getting the ball rolling.
Just getting you thinking. We put that description in on our website, gofirstyouth.com. I think it's resources, right?
/resources.
We've also got book listings on there. So the Cara Powell book we were just talking about, that's all that stuff on there that maybe just to get the ball rolling for your family, because your family's different than mine and all over the place. So those resources will be in there.
Getting the conversation started, right? That's the key.
Start talking.
Yeah.
First one might not be good, but start talking. Hey, thanks guys for joining us. We'll have another one soon. We can't wait to talk to you about something else. See ya.